Hey, good morning, friends. Good morning, Cash. Good morning, Relisha. Welcome.
Good morning. You said our family trees was due today, but I don't know how to do it. Like
Okay.
I remember you saying like you showing us the pictures and stuff, like the different color coordinators and stuff for us to do, but I don't know how to like create the thing on my laptop.
Okay. If you want to do it by hand, like if you want to just draw it on another piece of paper, if that
Yeah,
if
I think I should just do that because I feel like that's probably easier for me.
yeah, if that's easier for you to do, you can do that and then just like send me a picture of it. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Yeah, and try to do that by today if you can, and if not, do it over the weekend. It'll if I don't have it today, it'll just be late. But as long as I have it, you're good.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, Cash. And Cash, I did respond to your email. So if you did it um, on the thing on Summit, then I can just go in and check it. So I apologize for the confusion about not being able to submit there.
You could check it. I still gotta send you a picture of the family tree because I wanted to do that by hand too
Oh,
because it's like confusing to do on the computer.
I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. So do that. That's fine.
But
All
I
right.
turned in all the questions.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. Well, again, who else we got here? Jairi, good morning to you. Welcome. Let me get my attendance up and running here. Yeah. Cash and Alicia. All right. SM, is that Salam? SM, is that you, Salam? Can I venture a guess?
Chat.
Cool. Thank you. I just want to make sure I am marking the right people here. Ryan, good morning again. Happy Friday. Welcome. We are going to get started in a few. All right, I'm going to throw up our agenda slide for today so you can all kind of see what's going on. So we are going to be starting our story today. All right, we'll give maybe another minute, see if we get anybody else. I'm going to send out one last reminder. But while we are waiting, here's our do now question for today. I would like you to respond in the chat. What is an arranged marriage? Welcome, whoever that is that just jumped in. What is an arranged marriage, and do you think they may last longer than non-arranged marriages? Why or why not? Please respond in the chat to that for me. Take 2 or 3 minutes here to think about that. And I hope to see your answers in the chat in a few. While you do that, I'm going to send out one last reminder to everybody here. All right, again, responding to this question in the chat. What is an arranged marriage? Do you think they last longer than non-arranged marriages? All right, take about another minute if you haven't already come up with an answer for this, and throw that in the chat for me. All right, let's see what we got here. Should have some responses in the chat. So I got one from Salam already, a planned established marriage. Definitely. Don't forget about the second part there. Do you think they last longer than non-arranged marriages? So I'm going to give you guys another minute because we only have one response in there so far. I'd like to see at least one or two more. All right, I know we got a few in here. Khalid's with us now. Shirley, welcome, welcome. All right, so as you're coming in, this is our do now question for the day. Think about this. Like I said, we're going to take another minute, maybe two, till we get some more responses in the chat. What is an arranged marriage, and do you think they may last longer than non-arranged marriages? Why or why not? Don't forget about this second part if you've already answered the first part in the chat. Okay? Yeah, take another minute or two as we have people coming in, and think about that. Respond in the chat for me, please. Thank you very much. Happy Friday again. welcome again. Who else do we have with us? Emmanuel, welcome. All right, y'all. So we're thinking about this question here. Let's see if we got any more thoughts in the chat. Got a few. Excellent. All right. So we're talking about our thought for the day is what is an arranged marriage, and do you think they may last longer than non-arranged marriages? And Salam said that arranged marriages are planned, established marriages, and that no, I feel like non-arranged marriages last longer because it's more natural. Very good thought. Cash says it's when your family, most likely mom and dad, plan for you to get married at a certain age, and they might last longer depending on the people, but most women are unhappy in these marriages. Definitely true. All right. Anyone else with similar thoughts? Do we agree with Kashmir and Salam? Do we think they do last longer? Do we think they don't last longer? You guys are definitely spot on with the definition of what they are. I'm just curious as to if there's any more of us that have thoughts on, whether or not they last as long as non-arranged marriages. No one else? All right. Well, we are going to explore these thoughts in our story today. But so you guys both kind of took each side. Salam said, no, I don't think they do, because regular marriage is more natural, and Kaz was saying, they might last longer depending on the people, but usually the women are unhappy. So both kind of common themes here. What's interesting is that they've done research on this, and the research has actually shown that a lot of times it can be split, where arranged marriages, the people don't know each other at the beginning, but then because they have to stay together because of kind of the cultural implications of the arranged marriages, they actually grow bonded and fall more in love over time, and it lasts a long time. And they found that in some non-arranged marriages where people marry for love, they love each other a whole bunch at the beginning, but then as they stay married longer and are together longer, they actually grow and further apart as they discover more about themselves, and then those people end up getting divorced. And it can also go the other way too, vice versa. But I just thought I'd share that kind of bit of research with you that is interesting. All right, but we are talking about arranged marriages today because we are going to start reading our story Homegoing by Agassi that we have been talking about. We've been talking a lot about it, especially the family tree aspect, which, as a reminder, I should have gotten your family trees today, either on Summit or in an email with a picture of it, or in a Google Doc or anything like that. So if you still have not given that to me, make sure you get that into me by today. Okay, if I don't have it by today, then it's going to be late. And remember that it does count as having, you have to have that done to have checkpoint 1 done all the way. So just make sure you get those into me today. Again, if it's easiest for you to design your family tree by hand and take a picture of it and then send that to me, that's fine. I've already gotten 2 of them like that via email, so no problem. All right, ladies and gents, what I am going to put in the chat now, questions with the family tree. Sorry, first, before we move on. All right, awesome. Then what I just put in the chat is a link to a PDF version of this book that you can pull up if you want to follow along visually. Okay, I'm also going to be reading from my copy, so if you want to follow along auditorily via just listening, that is fine too. If you want to do both, that is also fine, but I figured I would put the link in the chat to give those of us who comprehend better by actually following along and reading the opportunity to do so. Okay, so again, just a quick review background of our story. It's taking place in 1700s Africa. Okay, and like I said, we've talked a lot about family trees. Here is again the family tree for the actual story. I don't know if you guys can see it. If you click on the PDF, you'll see it in there as well. But you can see the family tree of our kind of characters' families mapped out. All right. We're going to explore a little bit about that today. So we're going to try and get through as much as we can. And then I have a question or two for us to answer. And I know that it is a little bit strange and tricky to do this virtually, but I appreciate your guys' patience and you working with me, just like I will be patient and work with you guys. But if I do ask a question or anything like that, the more response, the more engagement we get, the more we get out of it, and the faster it moves along. Okay. I know you don't want to just look at me, wait for stare at myself while I'm waiting for people to answer, nor do I. And I also don't want to just be reading to myself on my computer screen. I want to be reading and talking to you guys as well. Okay. So here we go. So if you've clicked that link and you're following along on the PDF, we are at the first part, which is Effia. So notice our chapters here. What do you notice about this first chapter? Does it say chapter 1 or is it labeled differently? What do you notice about the title of the chapter? Is it just called chapter 1 or is it labeled another way? What do you notice about the title of the first chapter here? And again, here it is. If you can't see, I know that might be backwards on my camera, but you notice anything interesting about so chapters is someone's name, right? So if you notice, if you scroll ahead on the PDF or we flip ahead in the book, each chapter in the book is somebody else's name because it's about somebody else in that family tree. So just a little bit of an interesting thing that we see here, right? So we're gonna jump in again. You can follow along on the PDF. Yeah, it's named after somebody, Cash. Thank you. I'm sorry, I beat you to the punch there. I didn't wait long enough, right? So again, you can follow along the PDF or you can listen to me read and then be ready to kind of answer some questions as we stop here. The night Effia Acha was born into the musky heat of Fonte land, a fire raged through the woods just outside of her father's compound. It moved quickly, tearing a path for days. It lived off the air, it slept in caves and hid in trees. It burned up and through, unconcerned with what wreckage it left behind, until it reached an Asante village. There it disappeared, becoming one with the night. Effia's father, Kobe Acher, left his wife, Baba, with the new baby so that he might survey the damage to his yams, the most precious crop known far and wide to sustain families. Kobe had lost 7 yams, and he felt each loss as a blow to his own family. He knew that the memory of the fire that burned, then fled, would haunt him, his children, and his children's children for as long as the line continued. So already a reference to lines and family trees and so forth. When he came back into Baba's hut to find Effia, the child of the night's fire, shrieking into the air, he looked at his wife and said, "We will never again speak of what happened today." So Effia already is kind of tainted by being born the same night as this fire that ruins all their crops. Okay, so we can see how she already kind of has it out for her. The villagers began to say that the baby was born of the fire, that this was the reason Baba had no milk. Effia was cursed by Kobe's second wife. Effia was nursed by Kobe's second wife, who had just given birth to a son 3 months before. Effie would not latch on, and when she did, her sharp gums would tear at the flesh around the woman's nipples until she became afraid to feed the baby. Because of this, Effie grew thinner, skin on small bird-like bones, with a large black hole of a mouth that expelled a hungry cry, which could be heard throughout the village. Even on the days, Baba did her best to smother it, covering the baby's lips with the rough palm of her hand. Love her, Kobe commanded, as though love were as simple an act as lifting food up from an iron plate and past one's lips. At night, Baba dreamed of leaving the baby in the dark forest so that the god Naomi could do with her as he pleased. So already, what do we notice about the relationship between Effia and her mom, Baba? Even as a baby, how does it seem their relationship is going to be? Are they off to a good start? Does it seem happy and loving, or maybe a little bit different? What do we think?
It's going to be a little difficult
Why do you think that, Cash? You're right. Why do you think that?
because she couldn't produce milk for her, and
Right.
she was born on a day of a fire that basically wiped out half of their crop.
Yeah, cool. So her mother's already associating her with that fire that comes to ruin stuff, and then she can't breastfeed correctly. So definitely not off to a good start. That's right. And Salam, I just saw your chat. I'm going to put I just put the link in the chat again to the PDF. I might have put it in there before you joined. My bad. Okay. So the link should be in there now in the chat. If you can't tap it, then if it's not letting you click it, then I would copy and paste it and then just open a new window on your browser and just do it that way. Right. But again, the link is just to a PDF version of the story if you want to follow along visually. But I'm also reading it on my so if you want to just listen.
Now, how do I copy and paste? I tap like the left side of this.
Are you on your phone or on a laptop?
Laptop.
On your Chromebook? Okay. Quick way to copy and paste is take these two fingers right here and just click them on the mouse at once after you highlighted something. And then it should pop up and you'll see the menu and then just hit copy. Or you can hit Control C and that'll do it too. And then to paste is Control V.
Okay, I got it now. Thank you.
Cool. You are welcome. Effie grew older the summer after her 3rd birthday. Baba had her first son. The boy's name was Fifi, and he was so fat that sometimes when Baba wasn't looking, Effie would roll him along the ground like a ball. The first day that Baba let Effie hold him, she accidentally dropped him. The baby bounced on his buttocks, landing on his stomach, and looked up at everyone in the room, confused as to whether or not he should cry. He decided against it, but Baba, who had been stirring Banku, lifted her stirring stick and beat Effie across her bare back. Each time the stick lifted off the girl's body, it would leave behind hot, sticky pieces of Banku that burned into her flesh. By the time Baba had finished, Effie was covered with sores, screaming and crying. From the floor, rolling this way and that on his belly, Fifi looked at Effie with his saucer eyes but made no noise. Kobe came home to find his other wives attending to Effie's wounds and understood immediately what had happened. He and Baba fought well into the night. Effie could hear them through the thin walls of the hut where she lay on the floor, drifting in and out of a feverish sleep. In her dream, Kobe was a lion and Baba was a tree. The lion plucked the tree from the ground where it stood and slammed it back down. The tree stretched its branches in protest and the lion ripped them off one by one. The tree, horizontal, began to cry red ants that traveled down the thin cracks between its bark. The ants pooled on the soft earth around the top of the tree trunk. So you can already see how Effia kind of pictures her mother and father, her father being the lion in the dream that's kind of tearing apart the tree, being her mother. So we can already see the dynamic here. And so the cycle began. Baba beat Effia, Kobe beat Baba. By the time Effia had reached age 10, she could recite a history of the scars on her body. The summer of 1764, when Baba broke yams across her back. The spring of 1767, when Baba bashed her left foot with a rock, breaking her big toe so that it now always pointed away from the other toes. For each scar on Effia's body, there was a companion scar on Baba's. That didn't stop mother from beating daughter, father from beating mother. Matters were only made worse by Effie's blossoming beauty. When she was 12, her breasts arrived, two lumps that sprung from her chest as soft as mango flesh. The men of the village knew that first blood would soon follow, and they waited for the chance to ask Baba and Kobe for her hand. The gift started. One man tapped palm tree oil, better palm wine, better than anyone else in the village. But another's fishing nets were always full. Kobe's family feasted off Effie's burgeoning womanhood. Their bellies, their hands were never empty. In 1775, Adwa Iodo became the first girl of the village to be proposed to by one of the British soldiers. She was light-skinned and sharp-tongued. In the mornings, after she had bathed, she rubbed shea butter all over her body, underneath her breasts and between her legs. Effie didn't know her well, but she had seen her naked one day when Baba sent her to carry palm oil to the girl's hut. Her skin was slick and shiny, her hair regal. The first time the white man came, Adwa's mother asked Effie's parents to show him around the village while Adwa prepared herself for him. "Can I come?" Effie asked, running after her parents as they walked. She heard Baba's no in one ear and Kobe's yes in the other. Her father's ear won, and soon Effie was standing before the first white man she had ever seen. "He is happy to meet you," the translator said as the white man held his hand out to Effie. She didn't accept it. Instead, she hid behind her father's leg and watched him. He wore a coat that had shiny gold buttons down the middle. It stretched against his paunch, meaning like he's a little fat, and it kind of puffs out over his gut. His face was red as though his neck were a stump on fire. He was fat all over and sweating huge droplets from his forehead and above his upper lip. Effie started to think of him as a rain cloud, sallow and wet and shapeless. "Please, he would like to see the village," the translator said, and they all began to walk. They stopped first by Effie's own compound. "This is where we live," Effie told the white man, and he smiled at her dumbly, his green eyes hidden in fog. He didn't understand. Even after his translator spoke to him, he didn't understand. Kobe held Effie's hand as he and Baba led the white man through the compound. "Here, in this village," Kobe said, "each wife has her own hut. This is the hut she shares with her children. When it is her husband's night to be with her, he goes to her in her hut." The white man's eyes grew clearer as the translation was given, and suddenly Effie realized that he was seeing through new eyes. The mud of her hut's walls, the straw of the roof, he could finally see them. So obviously we see this British soldier has never seen anything like this before. They continued on through the village, showing the white man the town square, the small fishing boats formed from hollowed-out tree trunks that the men carried with them when they walked the few miles down to the coast. Effie had forced herself to see things through new eyes, too. She smelled the sea salt wind as it touched the hairs in her nose, felt the bark of a palm tree as sharp as a scratch, saw the deep, deep red of the clay that was all around them. "Baba," Effie asked once the men had walked farther ahead of her, why will Adwa marry this man?" "Because her mother says so." So what type of marriage does this seem like it is? What have we already talked about today? What's going on here? What does it sound like is happening between this British soldier and Adwa as far as marriage is concerned? What does it seem like is about to happen between this soldier and Adwa? You think about The part we just read. Baba, Effia asked once the men had walked farther ahead of them. Why will Adwa marry this man? Because her mother says so. So what's happening here with Adwa and this soldier?
She being married off.
Yeah, so arranged marriage, just like we talked about at the beginning of class. A few weeks later, the white man came back to pay respects to Adwa's mother, and Effia and all of the villagers gathered around to see what he would offer. There was the bride price of 15 pounds. There were goods he'd brought from him with the castle, or with him from the castle, carried on the backs of Asantes. Kobe made Effia stand behind him as they watched the servants come in with fabric, millet, gold, and iron. Do you understand what just happened? He asked her. In the distance, Baba slipped her hand into Fifi's. Effia's brother had just turned 11, but he could already climb up the trunk of a palm tree using nothing but his bare hands and feet for support. The white man came to take Ottawa away, Effia said. His father nodded. The white men live in the Cape Coast castle. There, they trade goods with our people, like iron and Malay. His father put his hand on her shoulder and kissed the top of her forehead. But when he pulled away, the look in his eyes was troubled and distant. Yes, we get iron and Malay, but we must give them things in return. The man came from Cape Coast to marry Adwa, and there will be more like him who will come and take our daughters away. But you, my own, I have bigger plans for you than to live as a white man's wife. You will marry a man of our village. Baba turned around just then, and Effia caught her eyes. Baba scowled. Effia turned at her father to see if he had noticed, but Kobe did not say a word. Effia knew who her choice for husband would be, and she dearly hoped her parents would choose the same man. Abiku Badu was next in line to be the village chief. He was tall, with skin like the pit of an avocado, and large hands with long, slender fingers that he waved around like lightning bolts every time he spoke. He had visited their compound 4 times in the last month, and later that week, he and Effia were to share a meal together. So we notice, like Salam pointed out, this British soldier has come in to be arranged marriage to Adwa, the other girl in the village. And what is the kind of arrangement? What have we now learned happens between the soldiers and the people in this village? You know, specifically with like the young daughters in this village. What's the kind of like trading relationship there? What does Effia's father say? In other words, does each side get something out of, you know, the arranged marriages, or is it only one side that's benefiting? What seems to be happening here? Oh, excuse me. Yeah, both sides definitely are benefiting, Kaz, you're right. So we know the British soldiers are getting, you know, arranged marriage to the young daughters of the village, and in return, what do the villagers get? Like, how do they benefit? What are they getting from the British soldiers when they marry their daughters off? What do they get in return? Money and other goods. Yeah, definitely. Does that seem like a fair trade? Right? We have to give you our daughters to marry you, right? She says, no, yeah, I agree. That's kind of what Effie's father is saying here. He's like, hey, they're going to come and take our daughters away. And yes, we get goods in return, but, you know, it's not cool. But in Effie's case, her father says, I want you to be different. I want you to marry somebody from the village. But we know, like it says, page 7, Effie knew who her choice for husband would be, and she dearly hoped her parents would choose the same man. So we notice that even in the village, they're still arranged marriages, right? Her parents have to pick the same man from the village for her to marry, and they kind of have to agree. So we can see, you know, how different, these times were with all this stuff. Right, so let's keep going here. Good job. Abigu brought a goat, so now they are, meeting together, sharing a meal together for the first time. Effia and Abigu, the man that she hopes to marry. Abigu brought a goat. His servants carried yams and fish and palm wine. Baba and the other wives stoked their fires and heated the oil. The air smelled rich. That morning, Baba had plaited Effie's hair, 2 long braids on either side of her center part. They made her look like a ram, strong, willful. Effia had oiled her naked body and put gold in her ears. She sat across from Abiku as they ate, pleased as he stole appreciative glances. Were you at Ottawa's ceremony? Baba asked once all of the men had been served and the women finally began to eat. Yes, I was there, but only briefly. It was a shame Ottawa would be leaving the village. She would have made a good wife. Will you work for the British when you become chief? Effia asked. Kobe and Baba sent her sharp looks, and she lowered her head, but she lifted it to find Abiku smiling. We work with the British, Effia, not for them. That is the meaning of trade. When I am chief, we will continue as we have, facilitating trade with the Asantes and the British. Effia nodded. She wasn't exactly sure what this meant, but she could tell from her parents' looks that it was best to keep her mouth shut. Abiku Badu was the first man they had brought to meet her. Effia wanted desperately for him to want her, but she did not yet know what kind of man he was, what kind of woman he required. In her hut, Effia could ask her father and Fifi anything she wanted. It was Baba who practiced silence and preferred the same from Effia. Baba, who had slapped her for asking why she did not take to her to be blessed, as all the other mothers did for their daughters. It was only when Effia did not speak or question, when she made herself small, that she could feel Baba's love, or something like it. Maybe this was what Abiku wanted to. Abiku finished eating. He shook hands with everyone in the family and stopped by Effie's mother. You will let me know when she is ready, he said. Baba clutched a hand to her chest and nodded soberly. Kobe and the other men saw Abiku off as the rest of the family waved. That night, Baba woke Effia up while she was sleeping on the floor of the hut. Effia felt the warmth of her mother's breast against her ear, against her ear as she spoke. When your blood comes, Effia, you must hide it. You must tell me and no one else, she said. Do you understand? She handed Effia palm fronds that she had turned into soft, rolled sheets. Place these inside of you and check them every day. When they turn red, you must tell me. Effie looked at the palm fronds and held in Baba's outstretched hands. She didn't take them at first, but when she looked up again, there was something like desperation in her mother's eyes. And because the look had softened Baba's face somehow, and because Effia also knew desperation, that fruit of longing, she did as she was told. Every day Effia checked for red, but the palm fronds came out greenish white as always. In the spring, the chief of the village grew ill, and everyone watched Abiku carefully to see if he was ready for the task. He married 2 women in those months, Arikua the Wise and Millicent, the half-caste daughter of a Fonte woman and a British soldier. In other words, mixed race. The soldier had died from fever, leaving his wife and 2 children much wealth to do with as they pleased. Effia prayed for the day all of the villagers would call her Effia the Beauty, as Abiku called her on the rare occasions when he was permitted to speak to her. Millicent's mother had been given a new name by her white husband. She was plump, fleshy. She was a plump, fleshy woman with teeth that twinkled against the dark night of her skin. She had decided to move out of the castle and into the village once her husband died. Because the white men could not leave money in their wills to the Fonte wives and children, they left it to the other soldiers and friends, and those friends paid the wives. Millicent's mother had been given enough money for a new start and a piece of land. She and Millicent would often come visit Effia and Baba, for, as she said, they would soon be part of the same family. Millicent was the lightest-skinned woman Effia had ever seen. Her Black hair had reached down the middle of her back, and her eyes were tinged with green. She rarely smiled, and she spoke with a husky voice and a strange Fonte accent. What was it like in the castle? Baba asked Millicent's mother one day while the four women were sitting to a snack of ground nuts and bananas. It was fine, fine. They take care of you. Oh, these men. It is like they have never been with a woman before. I don't know what their British wives were doing, I'll tell you. My husband looked at me like I was water and he was fire, and every night he had to be put out. The women laughed. Millicent slipped Effia a smile, and Effia wanted to ask her what it was like to be with Iku, but Abiku, I should say, but she did not dare. Baba leaned in close to Millicent's mother, but still Effia could hear. And they pay a good bride price, eh? I tell you, my husband paid my mother £10, and that was 15 years ago. To be sure, my sister, the money is good, but I, for one, am glad my daughter has married a Fonte. Even if a soldier offered £20, she would not go. She would not get to be the wife of a chief. And what's worse, she would have to live in that castle, far from me. No, no, it is better to marry a man of the village, so that your daughters can stay close to you. So we can see here how Effie's mom has started to kind of, the wheels are starting to turn. Of like, oh, if she marries a British soldier, we get money. But then, this other lady's telling her, yeah, but then you have to live in this castle. It's far away. If she marries somebody in the village, she could be the wife of the chief. So, kind of see how these map out. Baba nodded and turned toward Effia, who quickly looked away. That night, just 2 days after her 15th birthday, the blood came. It was not the powerful rush of ocean waves that Effia had expected it to be, but rather a simple trickle, rain dripping, drop by drop, from the same spot of a hut's roof. She cleaned herself off and waited for her father to leave Baba so that she could tell her. Baba, she said, showing her the palm fronds painted red. I have gotten my blood. Baba placed a hand over her lips. Who else knows? No one, Effie said. You will keep it that way. Do you understand? When anyone asks you if you have become a woman yet, you will answer no. Effie nodded. She turned to leave, but a question was burning hot coals in the pit of her stomach. Why? She finally asked. Baba reached into Effie's mouth and pulled out her tongue, pinching the tip with her sharp fingernails. Who are you to think that you can question me, huh? If you do not do as I say, I will make sure you never speak again. She released Effie's tongue, and for the rest of the night, Effie tasted her own blood. So, what's just happened with Effie and her mother? What does she just experience?
Oh, I see. Let me see.
So what's just going on with Effie? What's just happened to her? Can anybody pick up on that? Any guesses? Talking about, she's talking to her mother. She said, "Hey, my blood came," and her mother said, "Don't tell anybody yet that you become a woman." So, obviously, a different way to phrase these things than we might be used to. But what has happened with Effie? What has she just experienced? That
Her first period.
Yeah, exactly, Salam. So she's gotten her period for the first time. Because remember, she's about 15, right? And but her mother says, don't tell anybody about this. I'm the only one that should know. And so we're kind of left wondering, why is that the case? Why does her mom not want anybody to know that she has experienced this? Are there any thoughts off the bat?
Because it's like she mature now and she can start being looked at really.
Right. So maybe now we're seeing her mother maybe doesn't want to give her away as quick as we thought she did. Because,
Trying to protect her basically.
yeah, exactly, Salam. Salam said her mother knows. Okay, now that she knows it, because remember, if you remember from a few pages ago, Abika says to her mother, "Hey, when she's ready, let me know." So now we can start to think, okay, maybe this is what he meant when she has gotten her period, when she's become a woman, when she's matured. Let me know. So maybe your mom's trying to hide this, but we don't quite know why yet. But I think Salam's on the right track here. All right. Really good job. We're going to stop there for today. And I'm going to pose a question.
Mr. I
What's
have
up?
a question.
What's
Okay,
up?
so this is a little off topic though.
No worries.
So it's about my family tree. So when
Okay.
I do it, do I do it from both sides, or do I just do like my mom's side or my dad's side? Like, do I pick, or like do I just like, how do that work?
So do as much as you can. I'd like you to have both sides if you can. If you only know one side, you have more than the other, that's fine. But it's kind of up to you. Like however you feel, you know.
Wait, somebody got their mic on. I can't really like. It's a lot of going
My
on.
fault, that was me. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So however you feel your family tree is best depicted is kind of the way to do it. So to answer your question, try to do both if you can. But if you would rather do one versus the other, or if you only know one versus the other, then that's fine too. Okay.
All right. I'll probably just do my mom's side because
Yeah.
it's a lot of reasons that I don't want to get into. But I'll probably just do my mom's side.
Yeah. Again, that's totally fine. Everybody's tree looks different. No worries.
Okay.
So to wrap up today, there is a question that I've just posed in the chat. I would like you to think about and answer. Take about 5 minutes, and then we can kind of wrap this up. It is, what is the relationship between Effia and Kobe, Effia and Baba? Why do you think it is that way? And remember, Baba is her mom, Kobe is her dad. So how is the relationship? How is her relationship with each of those people? And why do you think it is that way? So take about 5 minutes here, think about that question, respond in the chat for me, and then we're going to see what you guys come up with and wrap this up here for today. All right? Good job. All right, awesome. We got one in there from Cash already. Thank you. Waiting for a couple others in there as well. Again, questions in the chat. What is the relationship between Effia and Kobe, Effia and Baba? Why do you think it is that way? Let's take it. Let's say about 3 more minutes here, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Thank you, guys. All right, got another one. Thank you. All right, so Kashmir has a really good answer here. It says her and her mom don't really have a good relationship because she was born the day of the fire. She can breastfeed her. Effie and her dad has a good relationship because he understands and wants more from her. Really, really good. And I know Salam already kind of seconded Kashmir's answer. So if anybody else agrees with Kashmir, let me know in the chat. If you think it's something different, please let me know that as well. But I think you're kind of off to a really good track here. So what do we think? Why do we think? Kashmir already says she's born the day of the fire, couldn't breastfeed her, and now we see she's starting to become a beautiful young woman. So, what do we notice the older she gets? What happens with the relationship between her and her mom? Do they grow closer the older she gets, the more she develops, or do they grow farther apart the older she gets? Words, definitely. And so there's a word we can use. It starts with an R that her mom might feel this way about Kashmir. Can anybody think of the word I'm thinking of trying to use here about the way her mom feels about Kashmir? Starts with an R. You might say this if you think somebody kind of like you should have something that they have, or that they kind of put you in a position where now you couldn't do something you wanted to do. Jealous is definitely on the right track, right? The word I'm thinking of is what? Any guesses? What would it be? Any thoughts? No? What I'm thinking of is resentment. Okay, right? So we might say that Effia's mom, Baba, resents Effia because she reminds her of the fire where they lost their crops. She is growing more beautiful than she is. She knows she gets along better with the dad, who beats on her whenever she beats on Effia. So a lot of resentment going on. However, as Salam pointed out, we see that she might still be trying to protect her by telling her, like, hey, don't tell anybody that your blood has come in. So we'll see if any of that happens in the next section. So, ladies and gents, thank you guys. Really good job. Thank you to everybody for participating and engaging. What's going to happen is I'm going to send out an email over the weekend that has a link to a Nearpod lesson. And in that lesson is going to be a video of me reading this whole section. And there's going to be some kind of questions attached as you read or as you follow the video. And that's what we can kind of focus on, look at before we come back next class on Tuesday. All right. Don't forget, we have an assembly in a few minutes at 11:30 to shout out our Term 1 graduates. So hopefully I will see you all there. The link should have been emailed to you by Ms. C. If you still don't have it, you can check with your mentor teacher. And have a safe, healthy weekend. If you have any questions or if you're stumped on anything with the family tree or anything like that, you can also come get help in the Summit Lab today, 1 to 3. Right,
Do we create our family tree on paper or is it in Summit?
You can do it on the entry event note taker thing that we were doing in Summit, But if that's a little too difficult, you can do it by hand on paper and then just send me a picture of that, like in an email. You can do it that way too. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Any other questions?
Do we have to go to the assembly?
If you can, we would like you to, because we're just trying to have, just keep our kind of sense of community, even though we're virtual. So if you're able to attend, yes, we'd like you to be there. If you have work or something, or you have to leave early, that's okay. But it also shouldn't take too long because we only have 6 or so graduates, and it's not like a full blown ceremony. It's just kind of like a little shout out session. Okay. All right, now, good job. Any other questions? Shoot me an email or come see me in the Summit Lab, and I will see you in a few minutes in the assembly. Have a good weekend, y'all. All right, thank you.